Just a week ago, I made a post talking about how people were starting to speculate that Jade and Chris had split up after people went to both of their social media profiles and realized that the two were no longer following each other. And the biggest thing for me is Jade, her whole personality on social media was the fact she was dating an inmate, and she was, well, not dating, but married to an inmate, and the fact she was with Chris. And then she completely scrubbed her TikTok and Instagram of him. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like something's had to have happened. Well, now we have confirmation that Chris cheated on Jade. According to Jade, she posted this picture adding devil horns to Chris, and she said, cheater ass bitch. And then Chris posted on his TikTok bio, and he said divorce. And I'm like, damn, divorced already? Well, according to Sarcasm, Jade actually filed for divorce from Chris today. And the divorce is just now starting up. But I mean, I guess Chris is ready to get back out there. So he's ready to let all the ladies know he is divorced. I went and I was doing some digging, and I found an old Instagram page of Chris. And he posted this post, and he said, yeah, my wife gets me phones in prison so I can send dick pics to all my Plenty of Fish girls. I'm like, what? That kind of sounds like Jade took over his profile and posted that after like she found out he was doing that. And then his bio says, diagnosed with substantial thought/mood disorders, found legally mentally ill in 2014 and 2016. And we know that from court records. Nicest and most genuine guy you'll ever meet. And he now has a new Instagram that isn't that page anymore, but that's one of his older pages. But he's not the only one who has allegedly been unfaithful in this marriage, because I did an interview, for those of you guys who remember, with this man who went by the name of Street Scholar. Feel free to search this interview if you haven't seen it already. Here's the title. But I went back and watched parts of it. I can't remember everything because it was from 2 years ago. But the gist of it was Jade had started talking to him on TikTok because she's big on TikTok and he spends a lot of time battling on TikTok. They started talking. Then I guess one night she invited him over to her house, and when he got there, she took his phone. She would not allow him to take his phone like in the living room or any of the rooms. He literally had to leave his phone with her at the door, and then she ended up taking him upstairs. And he said like he saw pictures of her and Chris and everything, and she ends up going into the bedroom with him, and next thing you know, she starts going down on him, and one thing led to another, and she allegedly ended up cheating on Chris. She never fully addressed it. Like, I do remember watching like an interview, well, not an interview, but she popped up on someone's live unexpectedly one time, and they asked her about the allegations, and she kind of just said F you and made a remark about effing the person's dad instead of like addressing what happened. She filed for divorce 6 weeks after Chris was arrested for DUI while he's still on active parole, after he was driving super wasted and almost ran into his daughter with a car. And they have a son together that's only like 3 or 4 months at this point. Like, he hasn't even been out of prison for like 6 months. The big question now is, how is the divorce going to be handled? Like, did she get a prenup? Or was there a prenup involved? Is she going to get alimony in this divorce since he allegedly cheated? She does have a child with him, so she will be getting child support for the next 18 years. I mean, at least hopefully as long as he pays it and as long as he doesn't go back to prison. I mean, he didn't always pay child support with his other daughter when her mother had her. And then he posted this picture with him and Jade's son 1 week ago, and he said, my little man Ozzy, daddy loves and misses you. And people are like, why do you miss him? And then someone said he cheated on Jade and she left him. And everyone in the comments were just dragging him and calling him out and calling him a loser for cheating on Jade. Now I want to give a big shout out to Sarcasm.net. They ended up breaking down like who owns the house that Chris and Jade live in. And that's like one of the burning questions I wanted to know. So Sarcasm was the one that initially reported that Chris was the one that bought the couple's 3-bedroom house that's over 2,200 square feet in Naples, Florida in October 2020 for $570,000. So at the time of buying the house, Jade and Chris were already married, and Chris was still in prison in South Dakota. So he was able to afford the purchase because he was a member of the Prairie Island, I'm not even going to try to pronounce this, the Medua Canton Native American tribe, which owns a casino, and they distribute monthly payments to its tribe members. So Chris gets a nice fat check every single month for the rest of his life. And he was able to use a lot of that money to put down on this house. And Jade was not on the property deed, which I find interesting. But since he bought this after they were married, then this could be considered an asset of the both of them, especially if she has any proof that she's put money into this home. While Chris was in prison, she did give Chris power of attorney so she could be out in the streets and sign mortgage paperwork in his name and do all this stuff on the ground that he couldn't. And so the house is in his name. And Sarcasm also noted that in February 2025, Chris took out a mortgage on the Naples property for $167,000. And Jade signed the mortgage paperwork solely for the purpose of releasing her homestead interest herein. So it's unclear if Jade will be seeking to get the house after the divorce. And I'm dumb, so I'm like reading this, I'm like, okay, so he took out a mortgage for $167,000, and I believe this is when he was still locked up in prison at the time. So he does that, and I'm like, okay, does that mean that he put this money down on the house already and he's like getting it back? So I asked my AI, and this is what it says. It says, here's the breakdown of what actually happened and what these phrases mean for a dummy like me. So did he take money out of the house? It says most likely yes. When someone takes out a mortgage on a property they already own or have already put money down on, it usually means one of two things. A cash out refinance. He replaced an old mortgage with a new, larger one, $167,000, and took the difference in cash. Or a home equity loan. He took out a second loan using the equity, the value of the house he already owned, as collateral to get the $167,000 in cash. So that's kind of what it sounds like to me, is he put the house on the line if he doesn't pay this loan back. And so in both scenarios, he's effectively borrowing against the value of the home that was already paid for or put down. So it sounds like he's probably... well, he probably was close to almost having that house paid off until he probably took all this money out. I just don't know whether that was necessary. I can't remember how much money he made, but I know it was like over $20,000 he was making some months. And I learned, I think it was like $20,000 to $30,000 he was making every month from his tribe. And his first child's mother, she told me that like at the end of the year, like around Christmas, they get a bonus of like $250,000, and they get several bonuses throughout the year, but like at the end of the year, they get a fat bonus. So it's like, okay, what do you need all this money for? I know you're getting out of prison. You're probably going to need a car and, you know, nice little fresh out of prison starter pack. But it sounds like you really didn't have much money in the bank if you had to go out and borrow that much money. And I'm sure it's going to have a high interest until you pay that money back. I mean, I don't know a lot about mortgages, but from what I've heard, if you borrow money, you usually got to pay a high ass interest. And he has just been spending money like there's no tomorrow. He got himself like this big nice boat that he's been going, like, I'll post some pictures right here of it. And then he's got like this motorcycle, then he's got this side by side that's really expensive. He's got multiple side by sides. He's got a trailer. He's got a, like, this car or this bike that looks like a motorcycle, but it's like, I don't even know. And I'm sure that was a lot of money. He's been blowing money like crazy. And it's like, okay, dude, you gotta pay this $167,000 back. I would not be blowing all this money on all this shit right now. He's got 2 boats. He's got a water boat. He's got a airboat. He's got 2 side-by-sides that I know about. 2 cars that I know about. An expensive-ass truck and a fancy black car. And it's just like, man. And I just feel like a big part of Jade leaving him is not only is the cheating a big deal for her, but I also feel like she no longer could control how people viewed him. Like, when he was in prison, she made it sound like, oh, he was so romantic, he was so perfect and checked all the boxes. And I am not buying that he was not crazy or showing red flag after red flag to her in prison, because he got out and showed his ass way too quick. I feel like she knew that he was probably trouble, and he was probably getting in trouble in prison. Like, he's probably drinking in prison and doing God knows what else in prison and not giving a damn. And I just feel like she covered up and made him sound like, and let that out on the show. Like, you know, she made that post talking about, oh, my girlfriend gives me phones and I like to send dick pics to girls on Plenty of Fish. So obviously he had cheated on her before, but that wasn't brought up on the show. It just seemed like she was trying to do whatever she could to make him sound like this angel that it really doesn't sound like he is, just because she thought people were going to buy it. And a lot of people did buy it for a while. But he got out and he showed his true colors quick. He hurried up and got arrested within months of being out while still on parole. And then next thing you know, he's cheating. And oh, and I completely forgot to say again, he almost hit his daughter with a freaking car. And the only reason he stopped is because she freaking screamed. That's like way too much after only being out of prison for less than 6 months. And she's freaking at home with a baby that's only a few months old, taking care of your child while you're out here getting your dick wet. That's just, so annoying, man. But, I mean, they obviously have both done it to each other. But I just feel like, yeah, she realized that she could no longer control how people saw him, that people were starting to see him for what he really was, and people were not liking it at all, and she distanced herself really quick. And good for her for leaving him when he cheated on her, because, you know, there's plenty of females that would have stuck around because of the money, no matter how miserable they were and how much they didn't agree with being cheated on, and put up with it for way longer than they should. But good for her for being like, you know what, all the money in the world is not worth dealing with this at the end of the day. And hopefully she has enough money to be able to sustain herself. That's the only bad thing, you know, when you stay at home for years and you're the stay-at-home wife. You know, you're really putting all your eggs in one basket, hoping that things are going to forever work out with this person. Like, hopefully she's been putting some money aside that she's been getting, like, from him, like, throughout the years. I know she does TikTok, but last time I checked, like, she's only posting on TikTok, like, once a week, if that. And that can be hard to make a living off of, just posting once a week. I know she gets a decent amount of views, but even then, TikTok does not pay a lot, especially if you're only posting, like, 4 videos a month. But that's pretty much it, guys. Let me know what you guys think about all this in the comments below. And what do you think Jade's going to do with her social media now that she's not with Chris, you know, because that really was her whole personality. Like, I can see a lot of story times in the future where she's going to share the breakdowns of what went down, and I'm sure she'll have some little memes or videos where she's throwing shade at Chris. And I wonder if Chris is going to continue to try to become an influencer, because I saw he was trying to get on that bandwagon as well. But let me know what you guys think about all that in the comments below, and thank you guys so much for watching.